Don't you think it's kind of different because, for instance, one does not have to go become an independent candidate to vie for the presidency if you don't have the wherewithal. You can decide to be an independent candidate and go for a local government, for instance, and no godfather can enslave you and say, no, if you don't give me this, I will deal with you. So doesn't that work at that level? You can even be an independent candidate to be a councillor.
Well, that is true, if that opportunity is there in those local areas. I don't think there's anything wrong with independent candidacy. The question is how practical it is. So where those opportunities exist and we can bring them to play, that's a good thing. But having said that, if you look at what the Senate did a few days ago, talking about the autonomy of local government, that's also important. Because when we now get into a situation where we respect that third tier of government, where state governors and state governments are not usurping those roles and they're financing, and instead put in proper due process that would ensure that local governments are doing what they're supposed to do in a manner that is transparent and above board. That's what's more important. And to provide guidance and joint venture opportunities clearly, but not in usurping the opportunity for local governments to play their part. So I think that would also be helpful.
And again, we're getting to see the scrapping or the death of the State Independent Electoral Commission. You're excited about that, aren't you?
Well, yes, in the sense that, you know, quite frankly, in all fairness, INEC is doing a decent job. And let's be real. We've seen that in Ekiti. We've seen it in Osho. And these were the, if you would, the litmus test cases and states. And they've done well. And again, look how that's happening.
Sorry, aren't you saying that maybe because, for instance, you mentioned Ekiti because your party...
Not necessarily, but I mentioned Osho as well, which is not my party, yes. But here's the point. Across the board, we have not heard one incident of presidential interference in what INEC is doing. And that's a great thing. That's a major leap from the past. And that's another area Nigerians must give Jonathan credit. He's allowed the Independent National Electoral Commission to run on auto drive. Get on with your business. And so where they make mistakes, they have the opportunity to correct them. Because the worst thing that can happen is executive interference. And this president has respected INEC. And that's a good thing.
So have we always witnessed that interference in states with the State Independent Electoral Commission?
Well, I think it has to do with INEC looking for how to reform and restructure. Everybody's looking for how to make this thing better. For example, look at a case like Imo. The last elections in 2011 became quite controversial because of certain roles that allegedly the State Independent Commission played. So I think the process is really more of fine-tuning. What can we do to make the system better? And we are for what makes it better. So it's not a matter, in my view, of whether there's something wrong with that state structure. It's more of what can we do across the board to have a more effective and efficient INEC. And I'm for that.
I mean, you spoke about the primaries. Very soon, delegates will emerge and eventually they'll get into the fray and decide who flies their flag. Correct. Yesterday as well, at this 60th birthday lecture of the Delta State Governor, we had Reverend Matthew Kuka, we had Sultan of Sokoto, you had religious leaders, you had politicians. They were all speaking about the need for politicians to show the right example for their followers such that violence will become history. Now that we're approaching all of this, and the kinds of people who are throwing themselves, wanting to pick up the form for their parties, I mean, the number is huge, and most of them heavyweights. To the extent that those who are watching think, oh dear, I hope these chaps will tell their followers to be peaceful. What do you see happening?
Well, you know, many people criticized the presence of security agencies at gubernatorial elections. And we've seen that in Ekiti and Osho. Part of it was to maintain peace and quiet. and give the system a chance to work successfully. Now, our prayer, and this is what I hope our party will achieve, and I think they're working hard at it, is to be able to ensure that there's a proper code of conduct, that players abide by a minimum set of rules. Because we can't have a process of primaries in chaos and violence. And look what Nigerians actually want. The more you listen to what Nigerians want, they want fresh ideas, they want private sector driven approach. They are not necessarily for establishment candidates or aspirants. You go beyond that. Look at what's happening in APC. My view is that one of the challenges that party faces is the lack of fresh air. It's all recycled old business, the same old ways that Nigerians are not excited about. Where are the fasholas? Where are the shimoles? Where are the fresh the fresh blood?
They're all going into the fray.
Yeah, let's hope so. And they must be encouraged. Because we need a process where people with fresh ideas, fresh blood, a new approach to things, private sector driven approach to things, must come in and help open the doors and windows of economic opportunity.
What if they say, but your presidential candidate is not fresh?
No, but guess what? The man is so fresh, it's not funny. He's going into a second term. Young man that has done one great thing, surrounded himself with quality people who are dedicated to his government. And we're proud of the job he's doing.
So eventually, you hope that all of these processes will stick to the rules and the guidelines?
I believe so. It is in our interest to do so. And I think our party, particularly the way presently constituted, is taking seriously code of conduct. And you will work it out in Imo and in elsewhere. I think the process will be such that Nigerians will be surprised as to the candidates that PDP will throw up.
What if they introduce something and they say, well, if your followers, any of these political leaders, if your followers are found to be involved or stoke the fire or involved in any major crisis of such, who knows, it will chip away on your capability or availability for elections. Will that work?
Well, absolutely. It's all part of a code of conduct. I'll give you an example. Some months back when Mr. President visited Imo, all aspirants were barred from showing up with groups or any affiliations to themselves. The whole idea was to promote party unity and abide by a code of conduct. We must have those rules and they must be reasonably enforced. PDP is doing that. And by the way, Chairman Moazo and his team are quite serious about the fact that we must have orderliness. Our party now frowns at court cases. Our party frowns now, quite frankly, at actions that portray indiscipline, and they're being taken seriously. And even for returnees to our party, they must abide by a certain code of conduct that guarantees that we operate in an atmosphere that is respectful to others and one that absolutely must not encourage violence in any way.
All right, Mr. Jerry Chukwueke, thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you. My pleasure.
We're back in just a moment. Please join us again.
If you want to know what's trending or you miss your favorite live shows, you can watch it all on our YouTube channel. Simply log on to www.youtube.com/channelsweb. Scroll down to your favorite program and click play. You can also view all uploaded videos by clicking on View All. Don't forget to subscribe and get the latest videos. If they are interesting, like them and be heard. Get connected with the channel's television YouTube page. The news at your fingertips.